So next, I want to talk about this building, the Francis Crick Institute. So I also want to know how this institute from zero to where it is today.
Well, this is probably the biggest thing I've created in my life. I've done a number of things before, but I had the idea of merging together 3 institutes that operated in London, and they were in different places. And I thought if we put them all together, we would have a critical mass of high quality science, and that would allow individuals to pursue what they wanted to pursue. Because if you have a small institute, you have to have a critical mass in a very narrow area. So we had an excellent institute called Clare Hall, where your boss, John Diffley, used to work. And it was brilliant. I mean, produced 2 Nobel Prizes, actually. But it was very narrowly focused on just one area, because there were only 10 or 12 research groups there. And because it was in the country, you couldn't, in the middle of the farm, really, you couldn't have a diverse different types of scientists, because you would never have enough. But I thought if we made a big institute, which is this one with 120 research groups, we have complete freedom to attract whoever we think is brilliant and let them get on with it. So being a large institute allows you to actually increase the standards, as long as you apply good standards, dramatically, which is what we've done here.
Brilliant. Yeah, I like this building a lot. But what were the biggest challenges when building this?
Well, several. One is just getting the money, because this cost nearly $1 billion altogether. This is a lot of money in the UK to put together. So that was a bit of a struggle. The second is getting everybody to work together. 3 funders of research, which are Cancer Research UK, the Medical Research Council, which is government funding, and the Wellcome Trust. And all 3 put money in, and they have to work together. And then 3 universities, Imperial College, University College, King's College, they all have to work together. And quite often these different institutions fight with each other, rather, and all 6 have to be together to get this place to work. So that's difficult as well. And the third thing is, maybe some of my colleagues in the rest of the UK were a bit jealous of this institution. It's very well put together. It has good funding. It is in London. It's very popular. And so I have to deal constantly with some of my colleagues elsewhere who think that we have too much money and that we're too popular and we're doing too well. And typical academic jealousy. So I have to push back on that too.
So do you think the Crick has achieved what it should have achieved so far with all that money?
I think we have achieved quite a lot. We put it together. We put the building up in budget. We moved everybody in here without much disruption, to be honest with you. We've done fantastic recruitment from around the world. We attract people like you from other countries, for example. And we've done very high quality work. We've won quite a lot of scientific prizes, and we're only really been in this building for 4 or 5 years, and 2 years have been COVID. So I think it's achieved quite a lot.
So you have been involved in running like so many institutions around the world. Like you were the former president of Rockefeller, Cancer Research UK, and you were the former president of the Royal Society. Did you take any MBA courses?
No, I'd never taken an MBA course. I've never learnt how to run anything. And I just use my nose to find my way around these problems, and how to run things. I have to say, I'm not really somebody who particularly likes running things. I'm actually quite good at it. What I really enjoy is running my lab, which, as you know, I still run, as well as doing these other things. And how I think about it is, I give back to society the fact that I can run things and put things together and contribute to the community and science. And in exchange for that, they can let me play in my lab. Okay. And that's the way I pay my bills. Is the way I think about it.
So do you have any tips for building or running world-class research institutions if other countries want to have their own ones?
For running a discovery institute, you mustn't be top down. You mustn't set up strong programmatic strategies and say, you have to do this, 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 and this. Your job as leader is to identify the best people in the world and attract them to come, okay, preferably better than you are yourself, and provide them with resources and the capability to produce the best work. So it's not to direct, it's to attract and encourage.
So you said the Crick is trying to recruit talent and people from all disciplines and backgrounds. So what kind of qualities are you looking for when you hire somebody as a group leader?
I think that it needs a combination of qualities, and some people have strengths in a part of that spectrum and others in other parts, but you need a range of qualities. You need to be quite smart and intelligent, but you need to be practical too. You also have to be focused on outcomes, on delivering something. You also cannot be a control freak. You mustn't control everything that your colleagues do. You have to give them freedom to pursue what they want. All of this has got to be packaged into a good support system with good infrastructure like we have in this institute. It's not that we have big teams here, we don't, but we have very good infrastructure, and if you have excellent people, what it leads to is what I call a critical concentration of talent, not just a critical mass of talent. If you walk around this building, nearly everybody you meet is actually good. And it's not just you've got a lot of them, you've got a lot of good people.
Okay, that includes me and...
Of course.
Thank you. So the Crick, as you said, has a lot of money. We have an annual budget of around 170 million pounds.
Correct.
So how do you manage to get so much funding?
Well, we inherited money from the founding institutes. So those three came together, and that provided over 100 million, 110 million when we started, and so it's worth a bit more than that now. And that's that's central for us, how we operate. And then the rest of the money we attract by applying elsewhere for support, either from grants or some of it's commercial, some of it philanthropic. And so that's what leads to the total budget.
Okay. Do you have any tips for fundraising?
Yes. For philanthropy, people make the mistake of thinking that philanthropists give money to achieve a particular objective, like solving cancer or whatever. That's important for them, but what's equally important is they trust the people and the organisation they're going to fund. So it's not only just interest in what they're doing, but trust that they're going to do it well. And so it's the personal trust that is critical in raising money from philanthropists. When you're doing grants and so on, I mean, that's a different game altogether. And I've never been particularly good at that, because often the grant committees think I'm a bit crazy and what I want to do isn't likely to work. And so I've always found that more difficult.
So I also noticed the Crick has a lot of collaboration with the industry. For example, we have a GSK lab on the 5th floor. Do you encourage scientists to do translational work or even start their own companies?
The way that we view it is this. We're a discovery institute, so 80% or more of what we do here is driven by curiosity, like me. But I also say we're a discovery institute that embraces translation. What do I mean by that? What I mean is that if you discover something and maybe it has some applications that would be useful for society, then we try and capture those things and develop them to a point where they could grow into a company and be useful. We're not actually interested in making money for ourselves. We're only interested in getting our ideas and data out there into somewhere where somebody else will make money and where it may lead to useful applications in medicine, for example. So we embrace it, but we're not driven by it. It's a very subtle distinction. We want to push things out there, but it's not our main purpose. It comes as a consequence of making great discoveries.
Do you see yourself as an entrepreneur?
No, I'm not an entrepreneur myself in that sense. I'm entrepreneurial in the sense that I set up an institute like this and it operates in quite different ways to most institutions. So it's entrepreneurial, but not as an entrepreneur in the usual use of the word.
So what's your favorite biotech company?
Oh, I'm not sure I do have a favorite biotech company. I mean, I've never worked in that area myself. I've always been a discovery institute. I've always encouraged others if they want to do it. But it's not an area that I myself have very much experience in.
Yeah, but recently there's 2 Nature papers on protein structure prediction.
Yes.
Their method is called AlphaFold. So do you know anything about DeepMind?
I know a lot about it, actually. It's, of course, very close. DeepMind, Google DeepMind is very close to here. It's only a few hundred meters away. The director of it, Demis Hassabis, he's married to one of my ex-graduate students. I've known him for 20 years, 25 years. We've discussed often working together, and we are now looking at a joint project together, not just the institute working, but personally working it. And I've just sent one of my graduate students to work there to investigate what we might do. So he's very interested, Demis and the rest of DeepMind, of seeing how we can use not just machine learning, but also artificial intelligence thinking to understand how life works. Not just to drive cars automatically, but to understand how life works. I don't know if that's going to work, but it's worth a try. So I'm very, very interested in that, largely because biology it's based on chemistry and physics, but it's also based on information and the management of information. I've written all of this together in a book, actually, called What is Life, and which has just been published in China, I have to say, so I'm doing an advertisement there, and in Chinese, and that will explain what I've just been talking about.
Okay, I have read the book, but it's in English. I'll read the Chinese one again.
Read it in Chinese and tell me how good it is, okay?
Yeah, I'll tell you how the translation works. But I also heard you have a story with Demis.
With Demis?
Yeah, he applied for your PhD.
Well, we talked about a PhD. He didn't apply. And, of course, I was talking to his wife, who was then his girlfriend at the time, who did come and do a PhD with me. And we did discuss it. And he thought that after our discussions, he should do something more in neurobiology. So that's where he did, which is absolutely right.
Okay.
Absolutely right.
So do you think the way science is working has changed? Like, do you see private companies like Google could be a driving force for how science works?
I don't think it's changed that much. It must be said, it goes through different waves. If you go back into the 19th century, it was all driven by private investment, in fact. Since the Second World War, there was a much bigger public contribution to science, big expansion in the public sphere, which is only right. Now we see commercial development, some which are very close to discovery, some very close to application. I don't see it's changed that much, to be perfectly honest. People say it has, but my take on it is it's always had links with applications and commerce. I mean, James Watt and the steam engine, for example, here is an application which also led, of course, to understanding of thermodynamics. So it's they're all mixed together. And sometimes we have fights, between those that say we're doing pure science and those that are doing applied science, and sometimes they're snobs, both sides. That's why I like what we do, discovery science, pure science, but embracing translation, applied science.
What do you think is the future of biology?
It's related to what I was just talking about, information. I think that we are describing what's going on in life in terms of chemistry mainly and to some extent physics. But to put it all together, we have to also interpret that in terms of information. How life uses information to behave as a whole, because lots of individual chemical reactions doesn't lead to behavior as a whole. It's all got to be connected in a regulated system, and that collection into a regulated system is built upon the management of information. And we've known that for years. It's not just that DNA encodes information, that's obvious and straightforward, but all of operation of life is built upon information. So it's turning the physics and chemistry into information to producing purposeful behaviors which are related to life.
Yeah. Do you have anything you want to say to us?
Yes, I do actually, since this will be, I think, broadcast in China. Yeah. I want to say how I think science is very important for connecting the world, because we have a common language, we understand each other in science. Sometimes cultural differences can get in the way, but science is really a similar culture across the world. So I see science as a way of reducing barriers between different countries. I think China has achieved wonderful things in the last half century and wonderful improvement in its science. And I really would like to see China and the UK working closer together to achieve what I think are really great goals for humanity. So I just hope that we can deliver that.
And what do you think of our organization called Sparkx?
Well, what I'd like to say about Sparkx is good luck to you. I hope it works.
Thank you.